It is Lane Kiffin decision day. Will he stay or will he go? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. Great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And a reminder, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Let's dive into it, guys. Today is Lane Kiffin decision day, and we are going to see where Lane ends up going. Does he end up staying at LSU or staying at Ole Miss, or does he go to LSU? These are the two topics on the table. And, you know, here's the problem is a lot is being made of if he does decide today to leave for LSU. You know, I think most people understand why. There's a lot of people on the periphery I've seen making the case of, well, look at what he's built at Ole Miss. And I keep going back to what exactly has he built at Ole Miss? If the plan or the goal is to win a national championship, I just don't know if Ole Miss will ever be at a level where they could win a national championship. This is the first year he finally got them to a point where they are a playoff team. This is the first time he's making the 12-team college football playoff. And yet at the end of the day, what is that? Just making the playoff. I know some people are like, well, once you get in, anything can happen. There's a reason why when you look at the Vegas odds, Ole Miss is, I want to say, the 7th best odds of the teams projected to make the field. So they're very big underdogs. I mean, this would be like betting on, I don't know, give me a playoff team that I don't know, the Patriots. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a team that wouldn't have like great odds to win a Super Bowl, but will make the playoffs. It's a long shot at the least. And this is one of his, last year was his best team collectively. He had talent-wise at Ole Miss, and he fell short with 3 losses. So I say all that to say, like, people have created this fantasy world that Lane is just, he's playing for champion, you know, like he's got championship caliber teams every year at Ole Miss, and he's built this foundation. Well, the foundation at Ole Miss is very much rooted on transfer portal every year. Like, this roster looks completely different from the roster he had a year ago. That roster looked completely different from the roster he had the year prior to that. So, you know, I don't know if that's sustainable. And people are saying, oh, this new age of NIL, this is how it's done. It's just really hard. And I think you look at teams that have won the national championship in recent years, you look at Ohio State last year, it was still very much rooted in recruiting. And recruiting is still the lifeblood of building your roster and trying to play for a national championship. Georgia and Kirby Smart are still very much rooted in this. You can address some pieces. You can add some pieces through the portal, but having to go build 50+% of your roster every year in the portal, I think is just, it's a tough thing to keep doing. Nick Saban just said on College Game Day that, you know, this thing's got to be rooted in recruiting. And let me pull up the question that Saban asked, just to not get it wrong. Nick Saban said, where is the best play? This is what Lane has to ask himself. Where is the best place I can go to recruit the best players? And that obvious answer is LSU. LSU has always been a very talent-rich state. They put out per capita, like NFL caliber talent, as high as any state in the country. Because, you know, you look at, just go to the Manning family, and I mean, trickle on down. All these great wide receivers from Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And Lane has not had that in his stops so far. Obviously, he's done as good as you can at Ole Miss, but you're recruiting against Mississippi State, you're recruiting against Auburn and Alabama, and all these teams in kind of that same region. At LSU, you know, even Brian Kelly, look, you're going to get poached. Like, you know, Nick Saban came into Louisiana and poached Devontae Smith, and you know, you're going to lose a guy here or there. But if Lane can do what most of the coaches at LSU have done, is put up a proverbial fence around Louisiana, and 8 of the top 10 recruits out of Louisiana every year come to LSU, you're going to have a great foundation to build something off of. It's what Ed Orgeron did. It's what Nick Saban did, Les Miles. You know, again, Brian Kelly was on the path there. It's just he didn't have the right coordinators. Every year something was missing for Brian Kelly. It was like either you had this elite offense with a Heisman Trophy winner, but you had the worst defense you ever had. Defense was decent, but the offense is bad. I mean, it was like it never fully clicked for Brian Kelly. But with Lane, with his coaching style and the offense and his ability to coach quarterbacks, I mean, that's, to me, is his biggest asset. Is like, look at what he's done from Matt Corral to Jackson Dart to this year was supposed to be Austin Simmons, who didn't play bad. He just got hurt. And then you got Wally Pipp by Trinidad Chambliss. To me, that is the epitome of doing more with less. Like, to go get a kid from Division II Ferris State and have him doing what he's doing is absolutely incredible. So I say all that to say, if Lane comes to LSU, he will have the most high school talent he's ever had, on top of being the king of the portal and LSU committing whatever that was, $25 million committed to him to build through the portal. I just think that is, as Lane weighs the options, yes, he's got a great thing going at Ole Miss. He could stay there and be the king there for years to come. But is he any closer to winning a national championship? Not making the playoff. And again, this is the first time they'll make the playoff. But is he closer to winning a national championship than if he were to go elsewhere? I just think that's the biggest question he has to ask himself. And the fact lies at LSU. Nick Saban built the foundation there. He won a national championship. Les Miles sustained it. He won a national championship, played for a second one, lost to Nick Saban. And then Ed Orgeron had the ridiculous 2019 season that, so some people can say he lucked into it, whatever. Ed Orgeron is the reason why Joe Burrow came to LSU. So, again, we can knock Coach O all you want, but he convinced Joe Burrow to come to LSU. And then all those other pieces were a lot of Louisiana talent, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, all that led to one of the greatest seasons ever in college football. So, again, this is the legacy for Lane Kiffin. It's going to be tough. Look, they're going to hate him in Oxford for leaving. There's going to be, and I've seen some people today on social media saying, Lane, I totally get it. There's some level-headed Ole Miss fans out there saying, totally get it. But I do think Ole Miss needs to ask himself, like, if the decision comes today that Lane Kiffin says, I'm leaving, I'm going to LSU, I do think that the Ole Miss decision makers need to weigh the options here. Like, are we going to get any closer to winning a championship without Lane? Like, in other words, taking a chance on Joe Judge to be the guy next year. Like, I just feel like, or in the playoff, like, I feel like you got to go with, if you keep Lane, and I get it's weird saying he's leaving for a rival, but keeping Lane through this stretch of the playoff, to me, is your best chance at perhaps maybe getting to a championship and winning something this postseason. I don't think Ole Miss is better losing Lane Kiffin today and going into the postseason. And obviously, there's still the caveat that if Auburn beats Alabama tonight, that Ole Miss could be playing for an SEC championship game in Atlanta. To everybody saying like Lane should wait to see what happens there, I think it's silly. If he already made the decision that he was going to leave Ole Miss before they go to the playoff, well, the same thing goes for he's going to leave Ole Miss before the SEC championship game. I mean, that's the reality. Again, I just think Keith Carter and the Ole Miss administration needs to have a level head here and go, look, we get it. It sucks. He's leaving. He's going to a rival. But let him finish what he started here. This is his team. This is what he built. And this only helps us moving forward. If Lane has some kind of success here, I get it. It goes on his resume as well. But when you can go to the next coach and say, look at what's set up here, we just got to the playoff semifinals or whatever, however far Ole Miss could get under Lane Kiffin, I think it's a big selling point of just the program as a whole. Forget Lane Kiffin. Like, you could say, look at what Ole Miss has sustained. Our next coach is going to come right in here and pick up right where he left off. So we'll see what happens. That ultimately later today will be the decision, or we'll get the decision from Lane Kiffin. All signs are pointing to Lane leaving for LSU, at least at this time. Anything can change and happen later today. But the tweet, this is Bruce Feldman earlier this morning on Big Noon Kickoff. He said, quote, I talked to LSU sources this morning. They are very confident that Lane Kiffin is coming to Baton Rouge to accept this job. So the other part is the domino effect of who's coming with him, what coaches are going to go to these other jobs and all this. So When we return, we'll get into all of that right here on Locked On SEC. And first, guys, I want to remind you the holidays, they always feel a little bit easier when you are already know the perfect gift. If you're thinking of your boss, a family friend, a neighbor, you can't figure out what to get them, Omaha Steaks, they make it very simple for you. Whether you're treating yourself this season or you want to send something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door. And this week is the best time to jump in. Their cyber sale is here. Huge deals happening at omahasteaks.com. And go save big on some unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. I tell you guys all the time, this is one of my favorite things when somebody accidentally sent me one years and years ago. I said, oh, Omaha Steaks. It was, we'd moved into our new house. Somebody had sent them to the previous owner, threw them on the grill, fell in love. I was like, well, I'm going to be buying some Omaha Steaks each and every year. And look, it's not just the steaks, though. It's the burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts, everything. All you got to do is visit omahasteaks.com, get 50% off site-wide, an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale, an additional $35 off. Use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. Go see their website for details. All right, guys, continue on here. It is Lane Kiffin decision day. Will he be going to LSU? Will he stay at Ole Miss? Real quick, I do think, the fallout of if he stays at Ole Miss, I think there's a lot of Ole Miss people who are upset by this whole thing and the drama and everything that's come with it. I think a lot of that would fall by the wayside very quickly if he announced, I'm staying at Ole Miss long-term, I'm locking in, signing a long-term deal here, and let's go try to win a national championship. Let's go on a playoff run. I think a lot of Ole Miss fans would be forgiving and get over it. But nonetheless, like I said, all signs point to him leaving for LSU at this hour. So what is the domino effect of what is going to happen with some of these other jobs? So let's just say that, let's say Lane Kiffin does leave for LSU. That now leaves, Florida. They are a little bit down the road with John Sumrall. This was from Pete Thamel this morning. Said John Sumrall did have some interest from Auburn, but according to some reports, that maybe interest has waned a little bit on, Sumrall's side or Auburn's side. But John Sumrall is the clear favorite to be the next head coach at Florida. That was Pete Thamel this morning. Now, he will not make his decision until Sunday. That's after his AAC title game. And the interesting part is it almost looks like John Sumrall's the backup plan for LSU. If Lane Kiffin tells them or makes the announcement today that he's staying at Ole Miss, it looks like LSU would pivot very quickly to John Sumrall. And Sumrall's decision coming a day after Lane Kiffin sets up for this. So, like I said, if Lane stays at Ole Miss, I think LSU could very quickly pivot to John Sumrall, and they could come in and swipe him away from Florida. So that one is very interesting to monitor. Now, again, if Lane goes to LSU, I think John Sumrall is the next head coach at Florida. Here's where, and I credit our buddy Matt Moscona, Locked On LSU. He talked about this too. Our guy Brandon Olson from Locked On Gators, he was discussing yesterday. He was hearing rumors that if John Sumrall the Tulane coach comes to Florida, talking about assistants, that Blake Baker, who's the defense coordinator at LSU, could follow Sumrall and come be his defensive coordinator at Florida. There was also some talk that maybe Tulane could be interested in John Sumrall as hire him as their next head coach, as Blake Baker to be the next Tulane head coach. I think Blake Baker went to Tulane, so there's some ties there. But obviously, Florida, if they're going to shell out the money for John Sumrall, they could shell out the money for Blake Baker to come be the DC there as well. Why wouldn't Lane Kiffin not keep Blake Baker, who's a fan favorite at LSU? Because it sounds like Lane would bring much of his staff from Ole Miss over, and Pete Golding, who's a Louisiana native himself, would come back home and be the defense coordinator under Lane Kiffin at LSU. So that's kind of the domino effect there, that if Florida gets John Sumrall as their head coach, Blake Baker would be the DC. The OC would be very intriguing because, as we know, the offense has not been good at Florida. Billy Napier killed that thing. You want to retain DJ Lagway at quarterback and all those different pieces. You're going to need to hit a home run higher on whoever your offensive coordinator is. How about the other side? How about the Auburn Tigers? Well, Pete Thamel said this. He said, DJ Durkin, this is a big day for him. If Auburn can pull off the upset of Alabama, and this whole Iron Bowl result, the trickle down effect of what could happen here. I mean, there's so many domino effects of stuff that could happen today. But if DJ Durkin pulls off this upset, there's going to be a good contingent of Auburn folks who are going to make the case. Let's just promote DJ. We can pay him cheap, and then let's go hire go get the highest paid offense coordinator out there, whoever that is, and bring them in, and kind of roll that way. There is some fan support for that. I think there's a lot of folks at Auburn who would love this. Look, it's not the sexiest hire, right? You're not going to win the press conference in rolling DJ Durkin out there and saying he's the next Auburn head coach, but you keep continuity. You're able to retain a lot of these different players, recruiting class. You probably retain Cam Coleman, like a lot of these big pieces. Deuce Knight. I mean, who doesn't want to see Deuce Knight back in an Auburn uniform next year? He was incredible last week. So there's a lot of things that could happen here with Auburn. The other one he threw out there, and this is an interesting one as well, is Alex Golesh at USF. He's playing Rice tonight for his last game at USF. Their AD already put out a statement and said, look, if he's got a bunch of offers on the table, Pete Thamel even confirmed he has an offer on the table from Arkansas, but Thamel said Golesh could have interest from Auburn and could have interest from Ole Miss if that job opens. And if you're Alex Golesh, nothing against Arkansas, I think he'd be a fine hire at Arkansas, but suddenly you go, is Auburn and Ole Miss better jobs? Yes. So I think that one gets very interesting. And is there a world for Auburn that they could hire Alex Golesh as the head coach? He runs the offense. He's got Deuce Knight, Cam Coleman, all these pieces. Look at what he just did with Byron Brown at USF. Had great success there. And you retain DJ Durkin. To me, that would be a home run for Auburn. Again, I'm sure Auburn fans out there would be critical of it. And, I don't know. I got my guy in mind. I want this guy or that guy. I think that would be a great hire there. So, again, domino effect here. Let's just say, argument's sake, today we get a decision. Lane Kiffin goes to LSU. Okay, Lane goes to LSU. He brings Pete Golding and whoever else, if he wants to bring Charlie Weiss Jr., whoever with him. John Sumrall then goes to Florida. He's the new head coach at Florida. He brings over Blake Baker from LSU as his new defensive coordinator. If Auburn goes with Alex Golesh, I think that'd be a great hire. You hire Alex Golesh, DJ Durkin, retain him as your defensive coordinator. I think that's a home run for Auburn. Where does Arkansas and Ole Miss go? And that's where it kind of gets interesting on who's left, of some of the big names that are out there. And, I've seen there's still some rumblings, and maybe Ryan Silverfield from Memphis could still consider the Arkansas job. The Ole Miss one gets very, very tricky. And if you're Ole Miss, do you jump in front of the line at Auburn in the Alex Golesh sweepstakes? I could see Alex Golesh carrying on that great success there at Ole Miss that Lane Kiffin has had the last handful of years. And so we're going to see, man. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest there on the coaching search and everything happening there. But granted, this is just a big day from how the Iron Bowl plays out and what Lane Kiffin's decision is today and how everything falls out. The other part of this too is if Kalen DeBoer and Alabama lose to Auburn, are there some Alabama boosters ready to go, you know what, 2-year sample size of Kalen DeBoer, let's pull the trigger. I'm ready to buy him out. It's a massive buyout, but that one would be very intriguing on if the Alabama job opened up. And again, to me, it feels like, though, the Lane Kiffin thing, he's going to make a decision today between Ole Miss and LSU. And if he picks LSU, he's going to LSU. You almost rally the troops around the idea that, I'm going to LSU and Bama's going to fire DeBoer. Well, good. I don't give a damn whoever Alabama hires, we're going to beat that guy every year. That's almost the mentality you got to have instead of the can't beat them, join them, rally around your LSU mindset of, no, we're going to dominate. The conference just got weaker because Bama got rid of a good coach, Kalen DeBoer. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. I don't think Bama gets rid of DeBoer. I think DeBoer stays. Although some of these, these Vegas odds, they keep pushing DeBoer for the Penn State job. And I don't know. That's why I keep saying this Iron Bowl results really, really matter tonight. All right. When we return, I'm going to defend Texas a little bit. I know there's been a lot of folks talking about the Texas Longhorns and should they make the playoff. I'll give you reasons why I think we should at least consider it coming up next here on Locked On SEC. Hey, still time to get in at FanDuel. Of course, they are the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And All the college action up there for you right now. If you guys want to get in on it, it's FanDuel.com. New customers get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins, and plenty of lines in action up there right now. Of course, the 3 games at the top happened yesterday. A&M, they lost to Texas. They were a road favorite. Man, if you put some money on Texas as a straight-up winner, and you could have put some money on the money line for Texas, you would have been a winner yesterday. Some other action happening today. Of course, that we're looking at that Vandy at Tennessee game. Tennessee still hanging around as the prohibitive favorite at home in Knoxville, but Vandy and Diego Pavia trying to put an exclamation point on the season. Of course, Mizzou at Arkansas. I don't have it up here, but I keep saying that LSU at Oklahoma line, take the under. That is one. It just feels like it's going to be a defensive slugfest. So anyway, head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel. New customers get $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, before we wrap up here, as we get ready for all the games happening today, I want to remind you guys, look, the college football playoff, I go back to this when it comes to the playoff committee, is we got to have discussions about things and schedules that teams have played, and we've gotten too wrapped up in the whole win total thing. That, well, if a team is 11-1 or 10-2, they deserve to be right there in the conversation. And what we're not taking into context is who have you played and who have you beaten. And I keep saying this for teams like, teams that have not gotten, not played anybody. Texas has one of the best resumes out there from a standpoint of wins. In fact, I think I read that their 3 top 10 wins that they have, it's the first team since 2019 LSU to have a resume of that many big-time wins or top 10 wins in a season. Yet, everybody's going to look at the 3 losses for Texas. And yes, we will admit, Texas lost 3 games. And one of them, yes. But the week 1 loss at Ohio State, we have to be forgiving of. Because these are the games we're going to lose if we're not careful. And I say that saying basically, people are, again, they're harping on the 3 losses for Texas. Yet if Texas had played Rice week 1, beat up on them instead of going to Ohio State, Texas would be sitting at 10-2 right now with a pretty damn impressive resume of 3 top 10 wins, and I think they'd be a lock for a playoff. We wouldn't even be a discussion. We go, well, Texas is in. No matter what, Texas is in. And people keep bringing up the loss to Florida. Yes, it's a bad loss. But again, in my mind, good losses can negate bad losses. And Texas has more good losses than they have bad losses. And this is what the playoff committee should be discussing. This is the whole reason we have a committee. If it was as simple as just go, well, all you got to do is go 10-2 or 11-1, you're in, 12-0, you're in. Okay, well, computers can do that. We can just, why do we even need a committee? The whole point of having a committee is to discuss these sort of things. And I don't understand the disconnect. We do this in college basketball. The NCAA tournament has a selection committee on Selection Sunday. They all get in a room and they talk about this. And the one thing, you know what they always give credit for is good non-conference losses. When they sit in those committee rooms and they start weighing, well, this team finished 6th in the SEC, but, man, early in the season, they beat Texas Tech in non-conference, who was rated, ranked top 10. And, yeah, they lost to Duke in North Carolina, but, man, Duke was top 5 and North Carolina was top 10. Those are 2 quality losses. You get credit for those good quad 1 losses in college basketball. And yet in college football, we don't do it. In college football, we just go, nope, you lost, sorry. You're out. You're out, you lost. And it's like, yeah, but we're taking the collection of the resume. As much as we want to keep harping on Texas, you lost to Florida. You lost to Florida. Florida sucks. Florida's terrible. They're a 3-win team. Okay. But doesn't the win over top 10 Vanderbilt and top 10 A&M and top, at what point do we give more credit for the wins? I saw this guy tweet. He says, so the standard is record without contacts whatsoever. So what if a team played an entire schedule of top 15 teams and they go 8-4, 9-3? That is terrible compared to a team that went 11-1 with 1 ranked win. And this is where the Big Ten, I think, just gets too much of a freaking pass when we start looking at, go look at who Indiana has played the last 6 weeks. The last 6 weeks, Indiana's been playing a bunch of high school teams the last 6 weeks. Indiana played Michigan State, UCLA, Maryland, Penn State, who was terrible because, they cratered after they got rid of James Franklin, Wisconsin, and Purdue. I mean, the game against Purdue yesterday, I think Hoover High would have given Indiana a better game than Purdue. Indiana just gets a pass here. They've been sitting at number 2. Look, give them credit. They beat Oregon earlier in the year. Like they had 1 or 2 nice wins earlier in the year. But then they just put it on coast mode because they're not tested the rest of the year. Meanwhile, you got Texas, and they're going to go to Georgia, and they're playing, they're going to play A&M, like these tough battles, and yet there's no gray area here. We can't have a discussion about how a team tested and battled and proved themselves with a great resume, and yet we just want to stick to the nope. You lost this game. Sorry. I'm just telling you right now, if that's the path we're going to go to, we are going to lose all those sexy non-conference week 1 games, because we are telling people that go the path of scheduling cupcakes. You'll play, and especially with the SEC going to 9 conference games now, even more reason for the SEC, just schedule a bunch of cupcakes. Now I know they're going to still hold them to, you got to play one, Power 5 opponent in your non-conference, but look at Lane Kiffin. He was scheduling Wake Forest and teams like that. There's no reason for Texas to go schedule number 1 Ohio State on the road. There's no reason to schedule Michigan. There's no reason to schedule these big, tough non-conference games, LSU playing Clemson. There's no reason to do those anymore, because the committee has shown you'll get credit if you win it, but we're going to be unforgiving if you lose it, even if it's a close game. Look, A&M, one of their best wins of the season is at Notre Dame. Go look at who's A&M has played outside of that, though. I mean, A&M's, all their wins have come against the lower half of the SEC. And yet, again, there's been no talk of knocking A&M down a peg. The Texas has played a much tougher road than A&M has. And so, again, we'll see what happens. I just, and look, I'll be transparent. I'm not saying Texas deserves to be in. I don't care if Texas gets in. I think Arch Manning would bring some bigger TV ratings, but I just think we have to have the discussion more. And I've seen too many people not even willing to have a discussion about resumes and who teams have played and who they've beaten. Again, we always want to jump to who'd you lose to. I always want to jump to who've you beaten. And to me, if you've got a bunch of great resume wins, that to me should weigh a little bit heavier than who'd you lose to. Again, if we see this happen all the time with the Big Ten teams, they have 1 or 2 good losses. Well, who'd you beat? Who are your good wins? And if you only got 1 good win or none, in some cases, Indiana last year had no good wins, but they had 1 good loss to Ohio State. And they got to get in. Well, why? Prove to me you deserve to be in. Prove to me you've beaten good teams. Texas beat 3 top 10 teams this year. That deserves credit. And by the way, when we talk about beating teams and where they're ranked, you get credit for where the team was ranked when you beat them. We don't do this thing in hindsight where we go, well, look at where those teams are ranked now. No, because when you beat that team, they can falter. So, again, if you beat 3 top 10 teams when you played them, they were ranked in the top 10. Those are 3 resume top 10 wins. So, anyway, getting into semantics there. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. We'll be back later today when we get a Lane Kiffin decision right here on Locked On SEC. Come and join us.